5 mistakes students make in hot yoga, and more importantly, how to fix it. I have the privilege of traveling across the world, and everywhere I go, I see the same mistakes. You want to get better? Then watch this video. So let's get right to it. Mistake number 1, people hold on too tight. Let's face it, it's a difficult class. It's a challenging class, especially in the heat. You're working hard. What I see is people work too hard. They get maybe too determined or too tenacious. And by using too much strength and holding on so tight, they're actually restricting their range of motion. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. You want to learn all about hot yoga, tutorials, flows, and factoids. Hit the like and the subscribe button right now. Mistake number 2, going too far too soon. Because what happens is, first of all, we can't maintain that intensity for that long. So if you start the pose going 110%, your body can't sustain that intensity, especially if we're doing posture like standing head to knee, which should be 60 seconds. In the old days, it was always 60 seconds. And at one point, they changed it. They kept 60 seconds on the first set, but they went 30 seconds in the second set. We always did 60 seconds. And in fact, in the advanced class, in my advanced class, not Bikram's, we would do 2 minutes on each side, which is ridiculous, and I don't recommend it. But how can you sustain that intensity for that long? And the only way you can maintain your position for 60 seconds or longer is to understand the dynamics, especially in a posture like standing head to knee, one of the postures I feature most on my YouTube channel because it's one of the most popular positions. It's a great posture for strength, flexibility, balance, combination. What happens is people are holding on so tight because they don't want that foot to drop. It's almost a mind game you have to play with yourself. I remember when I first started to do the posture properly, my mind would say, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. I can't do this pose. And as soon as I said that, I'd fall out of it. So what I want you to do, here's the fix. You got to change your mindset. Not use so much strength. Know that you can maintain this position, and I've said this many times in my channel before. Understand your starting point, wherever that may be, and your only goal is to find the next 2 centimeters, to find the next inch. We are a performance-oriented society. We see people kicking that leg all the way out to straight. So they think that's the goal. And if you're 10, 12 inches from straightening your upper leg and you're trying to straighten your upper leg, you're working too hard too soon, because not only is it hard for you to maintain the intensity for that long, but if you go too far too soon, the body tightens up to protect itself. So mistake number 1 and mistake number 2 are sort of interchanged. We want to take our time. We want to let the body relax. So we start out slow. The body says, okay, I can take this. This is no problem. And now the body will allow you in. And as the body allows you in, you can go deeper into the stretch. And as we get closer to the end of the pose, that's when you can start turning on a little more intensity, a little more energy to kick that leg out to get to that full position. Mistake number 3, not understanding your body type. If you're stronger than you are flexible, it's a different mindset. It's a different mindset if you're more flexible than you are strong. So let's talk about if you're stronger than you are flexible. Take it easy. You're strong enough. Once again, back to standing head to knee. You're holding that position. You're holding on too tight, which is mistake number 1. And therefore, you're restricting your range of motion. You have to relax. I was just in Iceland doing a teacher training program. And there was one guy who was very, very strong, very, very tenacious, and he could do standing head to knee to the full expression. But he was holding on so tight that he could barely hold the posture for more than 5 or 6 seconds. And then he started getting tenacious and he could hold it longer, but his legs started to drop. He started to come out of position. Once you're out of position, you're out of the pose. So I kept saying to him, relax. It's very hard to pronounce the names in Iceland, so his nickname was Viking. I say, Viking, relax, take your time. Relax, soften, you're strong enough. You have to think loose and relax. It's a different mindset. As I was telling you about Viking, I just remembered I wanted to share this with you last week, so I'm going to share it with you this week. We were just in Iceland in Selfoss, which is a little bit more east of Reykjavik, and they have this extraordinary waterfall, which I had seen the year before. This year, the waterfall actually froze because it was so cold. In fact, I was freezing my butt off taking this video. So watch this video I took in Selfoss at the waterfall. It's really extraordinary. I hope you enjoy it. Now, if flexibility is your thing and you're a lot more flexible than you are strong, then yes, you have to think strong and tight and solid. For a standing bow, for example, you got to strengthen that standing leg, keep it nice and tight. And take your time and go slow. A lot of times people that are super flexible, they also go too far too soon, which is mistake number 2. But then they kick, and they just can't hold the position and they fall out of it, like a fish out of water. We have to go slower, control, strength, foundation. Let the flexibility unfold from that mindset, which is different, by the way, if you're stronger than you are flexible. Understanding your body type changes the equation. And if you haven't noticed, so much of what I'm talking about, these mistakes are mental mistakes, and that's the fix. So if you are more flexible than you are strong, tight, slow, foundation. If you're stronger than you are flexible, loose, relaxed, soft, you're strong enough. Then the flexibility will begin to happen based on your strength. Then the strength will develop based on your flexibility. You can use both to your advantage. Now, mistake number 4 is interesting because mistake number 4, we're going to use an example of another very, very important and popular posture in the hot yoga world, especially on my channel, and that's standing bow. And standing bow, what happens is people don't kick enough. They get down into the position and they stay stuck in concrete. Unlike standing head today, where they start to kick that leg out all the way, try to get that leg out to it, because it's almost more of an intangible goal to kick that leg way out there to straighten the leg. But in standing bow, to straighten your leg, the upper leg in standing bow is almost out of their mindset, it's almost out of their consciousness, that they don't even think about stretching. So let's look at standing bow, which change your mindset. Here's the fix to change your mindset in standing bow. First of all, understanding standing bow is very important to understand what parts of your body do you have to use to be successful in the pose. And you might have heard me say this before on my channel, but it's worth repeating. 40% is the back bend that happens automatically. The last thing you want to do is overarch your back. Just let it happen automatically. 20% is the shoulder you're kicking with and the back hip that you're releasing with. So if you're holding the left side, your left shoulder, your left hip. If you're holding the right side, your right shoulder and your right hip, that's 20%. So what's the remaining 40%?
Please tell me, please tell me, please.
Drum roll, Michelle. The hamstring flexibility of your standing leg. Therefore, you've got to get the body down. One of the big differences in the Bikram Barkan world, in the Bikram world, they tell you to kick as high as you can from the start. However, if your hamstring, your standing leg hamstring is tight, if you kick too high in the beginning, you won't be able to lower down. You'll be stuck up there in the clouds in purgatory forever. So that's what happens. People kick, and then they're stuck there. Or if they don't kick enough, they get down too low and they're stuck there too. So what's the fix? First of all, here's the solution. How high you kick initially depends on the flexibility of your hamstring. So if we get the body down where the stomach's parallel to the floor, now you're using 100% of your potential, not 60%. And now if you do happen to get your body down fairly soon, and I see this a lot, they get down and then they just stay there and they wait for the posture to be over, or they just end up falling out of it because they can't hold it any longer. So what happens is we're gonna slowly work our way into the position. Once again, not going too far too soon. We're going to only kick up as high as we can so we can get the body down where the stomach's parallel to the floor. And now that we've reached our position where the stomach's parallel to the floor, chest I like a little higher than the stomach, right arm just a little higher than the chest. Now, and this is the big mistake that I see, and here's how we're going to fix it. Now we have to start to stretch. Reach that arm forward. Kick that leg backward. Feel your body elastic. You're stretching like a strong piece of rubber. Bikram would always say to me when I was in the pose at the very end, he would say, let go and kick. Let go and kick. Don't hold on, because we have to get the extension. A lot of times I'll see the shoulders were really tight. You're reaching with that arm and you're kicking with this leg. Your shoulders are like this. We've got to extend the shoulders away from ourselves. Extension. You're a strong piece of rubber. Allow your body, and this is again a mental thing, so most of this is all mental. Feel your body elastic. And the next mistake, this isn't actually mistake number 5. This is 4A. So I'm actually giving you 6 mistakes. And this is really not the student's mistake. This could be the teacher's or the studio owner's mistake. I believe in the Bikram world, they make the room a little bit too hot. I know their standard is 105 degrees with 40% humidity. In the Barkan world, we do 100 degrees, which is 40, by the way, centigrade, and 40% humidity. Actually, our humidity kicks up a little bit higher in South Florida because the outside walls are not insulated. So in the summertime, it gets to 100% humidity, and there's no way you can do the class 100 degrees with 100% humidity. It's just too much. So in the Barkan world, we go a little bit lower. In the hot yoga class, we go 100 or 40 degrees centigrade. And if it creeps up to 60, 70% humidity, like in the summertime, I bring it down to 95 tops. Now in the Barkan Method Hot Vinyasa class, because there's two classes in the Barkan Method world, in the Vinyasa class, 95 is tops. We don't go past 95 because we're generating a lot more heat because we're moving a lot faster and we're moving continuously in the first 35 minutes. So if you have it at 100 degrees or 40 degrees centigrade, it's just way too much. So what I'm saying is if it's too hot, then the student goes into survival mode. And there's no way you're going to be able to improve in your practice if you're just trying to survive the heat. I remember one teacher would say, unless everybody is on the ground at one point during the standing poses, I haven't succeeded and done my job. And to me, that's just ridiculous, because then you're just making the heat the intention, or surviving the heat the intention. In the Barkan world, and this is what I got from Bikram. This is what I was, because we never really had it that hot in the old days. We had it around 100 or 40 degrees when we were in Beverly Hills. If the class was bigger, like in the afternoon, the class would be packed, the humidity level would rise up and it would get hotter. But always yoga was the intention. Let the heat enhance your practice. Don't let the heat be the main focus. So once again, that's really not a student mistake. This is just a side note to how Barkan and Bikram are a little bit different heat-wise. And mistake number 5, you're not coming enough. You got to come on a regular basis. If you're watching this video at this point, obviously you are committed and wanting to improve in your practice. Then you should be doing yoga 4 times a week minimum. In fact, if you really want to get better, 5 should be minimum. And 5 is good. 6 is ideal. I always said this on my channel. I don't like 7. I think you need to give your body a chance to rest, or you just can't help yourself, then do a restorative class. We're doing a lot of intense workouts, and both Bikram and Barkan in the hot yoga world from Vishnu Ghosh. So you got to give your body a chance to rest. Back in the old days, we would do 3-4 classes a day, which was absolutely insane. But we always took off Sunday. Give your body a rest to recover. So once again, 4 minimum, but if you're really committed and getting better, 5 should be minimum. 6 is ideal. Don't like 7. Come more often. What a difference. The momentum is going to build. And let's say you start your week on Monday, when you get to Friday and Saturday, that's when you're going to peak. So just like too far too soon in your pose, you don't want to be going gangbusters on Monday. Let yourself build up to that toward the end of the week. As you get to Thursday and Friday and Saturday, you're peaking in your practice. That's really the main thing. That's when the real magic is going to start to happen. So I hope these points are very helpful on how you can improve in your practice. Here's where I'm going to be. There's still time to come to our Indiana workshop, March 13th, 14th, and 15th at the Yoga Space. I put links in the description below. Then there's still time to sign up for the Barkan Method OBX, that's Outer Banks, North Carolina, Level 1 Teacher Training Program in March and April. I also put links in the description below. We'd love to have you join us. There's 2 9-day sessions. You have to attend both sessions. Then in April, I'm going to be in Tallahassee for another Barkan Method workshop, April 10th, 11th, and 12th. Also, I put links in the description below at Journeys in Yoga. And in May, our 26th annual Barkan Method Costa Rica adventure. You can come and participate in the teacher training program, or you can come to the yoga retreat. So it's open to everyone. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell. Any questions or comments, put them down below. I'm happy to get back to you, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye, everyone.